The Backrooms Legacy. Watch your back. Level 216, the I.M.B.H. The Interdimensional Museum of Backrooms History. The Interdimensional Museum of Backrooms History has been operating free to the public since its inception in the year 1932. Here, adults and children alike can learn and gain a better understanding of the backrooms which we all inhabit. Thanks to partnerships between various organizations and people, we at the IMBH have been able to collect an array of exhibits for the public's viewing pleasure. Operating hours: Monday through Wednesday, 10 o'clock a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. Thursday through Friday, 10 o'clock a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 12 o'clock p.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Survival difficulty: class educational, safe and secure, constant friendly presence, contained threats. The quote-unquote Interdimensional Museum of Backrooms History, abbreviated as the IMBH, is the 217th level of the Backrooms and can be accessed easily through a specific door found in the hub. The main concourse of this level is made up of 4 separate sections and 3 floors. Additionally, all the wings can be accessed in some way or another via the levels of the main concourse and side stairways and elevators to the upper floor. Further directions can be found in directories or given by museum staff and guides. Image caption: an image looking into a section of level 216's concourse. Thanks to cooperation between groups such as the MEG, BNTG, Eyes of Argos, Eternal Repository, and other groups. Footnote: the UEC have opted to have their direct mentions within this page removed. And footnote: we at the Museum of Backrooms History have been able to accumulate a vast collection of artifacts and exhibits donated at the behest of various peoples. Those who wish to access archives and resources pertaining to the backrooms are permitted to do so within the halls of this facility. Security is guaranteed by the Multilateral Peace Agreement of 1950 by multiple groups who have made contributions to the IMBH. Today's exhibits include the main floor exhibits: a display of the largest ever taxidermized smiler, nicknamed Jimothy, found in the main concourse, permanently on display. The Castello's collection, West Wing, permanent exhibit, dedicated to models, preserved and living specimens, and taxidermies of the various entities and creatures who inhabit our backrooms. Art of Trade, East Wing, permanent exhibit, brought to us by the BNTG. TM is a display of artifacts showing off the types of items used for trade throughout human history in the backrooms. Amongst the Weeds, North Wing, available for viewing until 28/12/2024. A showcase of all knowledge on the history of the Masked Maidens' skills in deception. Second floor exhibits: Amongst the Gods, Northwest Wing, available for viewing until 1/1/24, is dedicated to teaching guests about the Pantheon and its members. The Ground We Walk, Northeast Wing, permanent exhibit, a place where guests can view samples of materials and objects from a vast array of levels, both hazardous and safe. Bayanihon, Southwest Wing, permanent exhibit, a study of customs surrounding death and remembrance, shared with us by the Calig Institute. Justice for All, Southeast Wing, available for viewing until 28/4/23, is a showcase of how the Eyes of Argos have dealt justice throughout the ages. Basement exhibits: the Langeler Auditoriums, West Side Doors, is where visitors and guests can see documentaries, see live reports, and hear from guest speakers. The A River Collection, East Side Doors, a place where guests can visit various objects from a variety of levels on display. The Valentine Archives, Northern Doors and Elevators, the primary storage for all documentation and artifacts within the IMBH. For access, please contact a guide. A gift shop and other pop-up interactive exhibits can also be found around the main concourse, as well as a cafe in the basement for any refreshments or food a wanderer might need. For more information, employees and staff at the main help desk around the concourse are available for questions. It is recommended that larger groups schedule a tour beforehand to avoid crowding within the wings and floors of the level. No groups larger than 25 persons are permitted for tours. If a visiting group is larger than 25 persons, please speak to staff about scheduling multiple tours. Those wishing to access the Valentine archives must provide credentials and reasoning as to why they wish to access the archives and what they are planning on seeing. Catalogs on available collections can be requested. The Castello's collection. Image caption. Some miscellaneous specimens available for viewing. At the Castello's collection, guests can get up and personal with a variety of entities on display. Some of the main attractions here include jarred specimens of smaller entities, mock dioramas of levels featuring taxidermized entities, and an exhibit of living contained entities at our quote-unquote zoo. Fun things to see. Amongst our jarred and preserved specimens, guests can see smilers, death moths, crawlers in various stages, a reverse defecating bird, mid-defecation, and other remarkable specimens. Cross-selections of various entities, such as combine, skin stealers, bone thieves, and a hound, are on display for those wanting to understand the inner workings of entities. These can be seen along the right side wall in the west wing within glass shelves. Taxidermy displays of hounds, facelings, a partygoer, and a dentist can be viewed within multiple mock-up rooms on the left side of the exhibit, meant to mimic common levels, which some guests might not even dare set foot in. Wax replicas of various entities, such as Jerry, the King, Aiden, the unapproachable horse, simulated at the appropriate distance, and Barry, all of which can be found within the central platform of the West Wing. Within our care at the quote-unquote zoo section of the Castello's collection, guests can be face-to-face with a few of our domesticated doll faces, combines, and blubcats, all within safe and appropriate distances. The zoo section can be found in the back in its own separate room of the exhibit. Art of Trade. Image caption. Some of the finer items on display at the Art of Trade exhibit. The I.M.B.H is legally required to state that this exhibit has been sponsored by the Backrooms Non-Aligned Trade Group. In the Art of Trade exhibit, visitors can look through an array of artifacts from across time, all of which were used in some way or another as methods of trade and bartering throughout the history of human presence within the Backrooms. Within these clean marble rooms, you can see the following: ancient stones, shells, bones, and teeth used as currency by wanderers in early Backrooms history. Recreated models of food and other perishables that were used as bartering tools by wanderers in the early stages of civilization within levels. Artifacts and relics of the BNTG's own history and trade, including old paper records of early caravan expeditions, attempts at mapping out levels, and trades done between a variety of groups. A model of what an early age store from level 11, the Endless City, would look like, complete with replicas and surviving relics of what would have been within stores of the time. An interactive exhibit on how to facilitate trade and the perceived values of items that wanderers and people have and used to trade throughout time. Amongst the weeds. Footnote: the IMBH is not permitted to disclose the validity of the information found within this exhibit. End footnote. Here, amongst the weeds, those visiting can have the opportunity to begin understanding who the masked maidens are and their shrouded history of espionage. Here can be found belongings from past members, along with a permitted, sanctioned collection of items allowed to be shown to the public can be found within this exhibit. Items, such as a container presumed to be Object 26, Maiden's Ink, are additionally on display for viewing purposes only. A historical timeline of events, including photos from various levels, such as Level 294, the Liminary Theater, Level 67, Brock's Bookshop, and a few contained wall masks are on display for those who wish to see them. What little information the IMBH is allowed to share is present for viewing. Amongst the Gods. Image caption. Some of the Keymasters donated keys. Within this mighty exhibit, anyone who dares can come and view artifacts and models of the Pantheon's members. Temporarily established within the second largest wing of the museum, notable members of the Pantheon receive their own special room. Within the main chamber, miscellaneous artifacts of the Pantheon and old records can be found. Notable rooms. The Key Study, a room featuring artifacts connected to the Keymaster. On display is a case of saved level keys from many different ages, courtesy of the Keymaster themselves, and a model of the Keymaster's own outfit. The Lady's Respite, a showcase of items graciously donated by Lady Blanche, along with gifts and various notes happily displayed on our behalf. A model recreation of Lady Blanche's dress can be found within this lavish section of the exhibit. The Grey Throne is a space dedicated to the Grey King, along with many artifacts pertaining to them. For the most part, what visitors can see on display includes ancient rings and artifacts dating back to approximately 11 million years ago. All this can be found within the appropriately themed room. The Red Armory is dedicated to the Red Knight, sporting a display of various mocks of weapons, armor, and accessories used by the being. Here, guests can also view a collection of records and documentation of Entity 71, the Red Knight, including first-hand encounters. The Ground We Walk. Here, guests can have a look at most material substances which compose the levels in which wanderers reside. A sample of nearly every bit of ground from all or most known levels can be found within vials or right within the cases along the walls of this exhibit. Sections of note: a botany section of various levels, flowers and other chlorophyll-based life forms and items found within levels encased in glass. Flowers similar to those on level 214, the Garden of Confession, level 369, Comely, and direct samples from level 165, Flying Bliss, can be seen. A geology section featuring stones and rock compounds ranging from spectacular specimens of level 197, Crystal Caverns, to unremarkable concrete samples from places like level 1, Habitable Zone. The anomalies section includes remarkable substances of unusual properties and types, such as a bit of rusting concrete from level 215, Harborside View, various substances found on level 196, Planet of Hats, and some grainy bits of terrain and substances from level 94, Motion, Bahayana, Image Caption, Exclave of Bahayana featuring the effigy of Buddha. The Calig Institute has decided to publicly establish a permanent exhibit within the IMBH dedicated to the customs of death and remembrance within the various cultures found among people of the Backrooms. The term Bahayana has been used as a name to display that this is an exhibition bringing together those of various communities in the understanding of death. On display in this exhibit are ancient marble caskets used by ancient wanderers, presumably as a show of wealth and status, found within the quote-unquote Greco-Roman room of the exhibit. A room featuring a statue of Buddha and a Bhumisparsha mudra, and other figures depicting Buddha resting in parinirvana as a sign of enlightenment and liberation from all sorrow. Poetry and art depicting funeral traditions similar to that of the Zulu people, including a list detailing possessions that someone would be buried alongside to maintain the satisfaction of a soul. A pinboard and binders of paper, center of the main room, for visitors and guests to write about their own experiences and cultures involving death and remembrance for others to read and understand. Justice for All. Image caption: Methods of persecution and armor worn by Eyes of Argos members. A temporary exhibit brought to the museum in part by the Eyes of Argos, detailing the crimes of heinous individuals within Backrooms history, and how justice has been dealt to all those who have committed evils. Footnote: this exhibit's definition of quote-unquote evil is based on the perspective of the Eyes of Argos members. Efforts were made to give a subjective view on the matter. End footnote. Within the Backrooms, the following can be found: a catalog on the terrors and historical threats of the followers of Jerry and the UEC, found within Room A, Main Room. A written history of the Eyes of Argos, released to an extent permissible by inquisitors and justice seekers. This includes information on the heretic, Alasdair Morgan, and the heretic tape, found in Room B, left of the main room. A display of other heretical logs, photos of, quote-unquote, the sinful, and the methods and devices in which they are persecuted and punished, found in Room C, right of the main room. The A River Collection. The A River Collection is the second exhibit ever made for the I.M.B.H. The A River Collection features a collection of nearly every object from across the Backrooms which could be feasibly contained. It can be found through the right side doors within the basement level of the museum. It is organized by object number, separated by the level of threat posed by the object. This has grown to include entities that take the form of inanimate objects, such as Entity 420, Jacko-burgers, and unlisted objects specific to levels and rooms. Notable displays: a bottle of Entity 73, Abyssal Ooze / Kirai, also known as Kirai, On display, separate from the Amongst the Gods exhibit, displays of uneaten and untouched royal rations salvaged by Meg researchers, a container of Object 42, lightning in a bottle, which visitors can hold, upon request to museum staff, old iterations of almond water bottles and other liquid containers, copies of some of Blanche's gifts, also visible in the Amongst the Gods exhibit on floor 2, the Langeler Auditoriums, Information and Hours. The Langeler Auditoriums, named after the self-proclaimed Backrooms bard Caspian Langeler, is a set of 2 auditoriums within the basement level of the I.M.B.H. Here, we at the museum host a variety of speakers and screen documentaries. As with the museum itself, the auditorium is free of charge, and any guest is permitted to see any screenings or presentations. For more information on current shows, contact staff at the main help desk. Current show schedule, Monday through Wednesday. Screening of Wonders of Architecture by Dr. Browen, 10:30 a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m., Auditorium A. Entity Specimen Preservation by Museum Staff, 12:15 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., Auditorium B. Screening of History of Level 11, The Endless City, by Dr. Bin Salman, 2 o'clock p.m. to 3:30 p.m., Auditorium A. Up Close with History for Families, presented by museum staff, 3:45 p.m. to 4:50 p.m., Auditorium B. Current show schedule, Thursday through Friday. Screening of Entities in the Wild by Dr. G, 10:30 a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m., Auditorium A. Children's Learning Session, presented by museum staff, 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., Auditorium B. Screening of Human Adaptations by B. Williams, 2 o'clock p.m. to 3 o'clock p.m., Auditorium A. Entity Petting Zoo, hosted in part by Dr. Monsignor, 3:15 p.m. to 4:50 p.m., Auditorium B. Weekend show schedule, Meet the Doctor, hosted by various Meg members, 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., Auditorium B. Screening of Entities in the Wild by Dr. G, 1:30 p.m. to 3 o'clock p.m., Auditorium A. Entity Specimen Presentation by museum staff, 3:15 p.m. to 4:50 p.m., Auditorium B. Upcoming special shows, in-person interview with Dr. William Goldstein, presentation on Death and Culture by Senior Archivist Ganny of the Callig Institute, Q&A featuring the Keymaster, retelling of Meg's origins featuring Overseer's Cat and Andrew, talk about Leo Castellos' new book on backroom studies, hosted by Mr. Castellos himself, online reading of poetry with Lady Blanche, showcase of objects hosted by Speck, the Valentine Archives, image caption, one of many rooms within the Valentine Archives. The secondary purpose of the Interdimensional Museum of Backrooms History is to store a catalog of records and other artifacts for public study and research. Many of the documents found within the Valentine Archives are donated by various major and minor groups within the Backrooms. This ranges from books to paper logs, digital works, audio cassettes, video recordings, physical items, and anything else donated which serves a historical purpose. Access to the Valentine Archives is limited to those allowed access via a request to the museum staff and administrators, though, in recent times, due to tensions, access is harder to achieve. However, the archives can be accessed via multiple sets of locked doors, or 2 code-locked elevators, which access the lower levels, where all of the archives are housed. A small, yet highly trained security presence exists across the I.M.B.H., though staff and researchers mostly reside within this section of the level. Down within the archives are multiple rooms, some climate-controlled for the sake of preserving the specimens or items kept in them. Others are corridors upon corridors of drawers and cabinets for housing smaller artifacts and paperwork kept as historical references. Bigger artifacts are kept in specialty storage, meant to accommodate larger items, featuring a special lift to transport them to whatever exhibit floor they are needed on at the time. Digital audio and video records and artifacts that have been digitized can be accessed through a separate, secure server room featuring computers and PCs capable of processing data in safety. Records, such as a copy of the MEGS database, are kept for safekeeping within the IMBH's Valentine archives. Directions. The Interdimensional Museum of Backrooms history can be found through the appropriately labeled double doors within the hub. Entering them should harmlessly transport wanderers to level 216 without any issue. To leave, one must simply leave through the same doors they entered. Doing so will either transport wanderers to level 57, Diurnal Art Gallery, level 164, Historical Hoard, or Mr. Castellos' very own level 222, Castellos' Museum. FAQ. Q. Which major group controls level 216? No one. We museum staff are an independent group of researchers who function for the betterment of human understanding of the backrooms. Q. What if I want to make a donation? If you or someone you know wishes to make a donation, please contact our staff at bmofh.edu@backroomsmail.com. Q. How can I apply to work at the IMBH? Simply contact staff in person or at the email above, and we will then contact you back with further information. Q. Are tours in other languages or for the impaired offered? Yes, some of our museum staff are multilingual or can hire translators, interpreters, or visual aids for tours upon visitor request or with reservations.